Hi folks, welcome to TM Books and Video. My name is Tom McComas. We are located on the countryside near the Indiana-Michigan border, about a mile from Lake Michigan. We operate out of 3 renovated barns. One is used for shipping, one for offices, and one for tabletop video and photography. We opened our new 4,000 square foot video production studio last year. We have 5 operating layouts in the new studio. There's a fast track layout under construction, a standard gauge layout. This is John Deere Heaven, where everything is mellow and even the cows are green and yellow. And there's also a pre-war layout. We will use this Christmas layout for part 2 of A Lionel Christmas, which will be released next fall. My favorite Lionel engine is one of the first I picked up when I started collecting in the early 70s. It was the 226E. I was just struck by the feel of quality, how quiet it ran, the proportions, the balance, and the headlight, and the red light under the boiler. It was made by Italian immigrants who loved Joshua Lionel Cowan. They were dirt poor in Italy. They came to America. Cowan gave them a job. They were able to buy a house, send their kids to good schools, go to church, the American dream. Cowan used to walk the assembly lines and say hello. He knew workers by their first name. They loved him, and that love came out in how hard they worked and the pride they took in their work. The 226E is a symbol of America at her manufacturing best. What toy today is going to be around 70 years from now and give you the same feeling as the 226E? Well, back in the early 70s, the way information was disseminated was by word of mouth. You would go to train meets and you'd talk to knowledgeable collectors, and slowly you'd learn what trains were rare, what trains were common, what are hard to find, and the values and so forth. And after doing this for a while, it occurred to me that if there were a book with color pictures and an explanation of what were the valuable trains in each category and sort of a history of the Lionel Company, there would be a market for that book. I certainly would buy it if it were available. So I talked to my good friend Jim Toohey, who was one of the finest writers in the city, in Chicago, living in Chicago at the time. And I said, Jim, what do you know about toy trains? And he said, absolutely nothing. And I said, neither do I. Let's write a book. So fortunately, I ran into Dave Garrigus and John Palm, who, in our view, are the 2 most knowledgeable Lionel collectors in the country. And we did a basic reporting job. We sat down for 8 hours a day. We went through the 3s, the streamliners, we went through the steam engines, the diesels, the passenger sets, the freight cars, and at the end of each chapter, we gave a pecking order of the hardest to find cars in each category. But we needed money to publish the book. It would cost $20,000 to produce 10,000 books. Well, the book was going to sell for $10, so all we had to do was sell 2,000 books to get our money back to pay the loan. So I went to a bank in Wilmette, Illinois, but I knew the president of the bank, and I wanted to run through my pitch with him. I didn't think he would loan me the money because I didn't think his bank was big enough, but maybe one in Chicago would. But I wanted to do kind of a rehearsal dry run. So I went through. I explained how much it would cost. We only had to sell 2,000 books to break even. There were about 7,500 members in the TCA. And he listened to me and he said, I don't think you have to go downtown. I'll loan you the money. And now this was about 1974, and this is the first book on Lionel with color pictures, kind of a collector's guide and history. The TCA had their national convention in Seattle, And I went there with a case of 300 books. I opened the case, the show opened, and I think I sold all 300 books in about an hour and a half. It was unbelievable. It was like selling cold beer on a hot night in Brooklyn. People were throwing money at me, grabbing the books, and I was happy to see how the books were received. And about a week prior to the show, we had made a mailing, 7,500 members of the TCA. And by now, there should be some returns from the mailing. So I called my dad, who, by the way, thought I was out of my mind. He had no idea what this toy train business was all about, and he thought I was crazy. So I said, did you go to the mailbox? Is there anything in the post office box? He said, not a single letter. And my heart sank, and I thought there would at least be 30 or 40 orders. So he said, but there was a slip for me to go to the window. I went to the window, and they had 2.5 bags full of orders. My wrist is sore from putting your deposit stamp on the back of all these checks. What have you done here? And so we received 1,200 orders, and within 3 months, we had sold 4,000 books, and within the year, we had sold all 10,000 books. So we were in the publishing business. We then decided to do switch to hardcover. In '75, we did Collector's Guide and History to pre-war Lionel, and then we did a second, more larger volume of post-war Lionel. Then we did Volume 3 Standard Gauge, Volume 4 Lionel 1970 to 1980, and we did the Archives Volume 5 and Advertising and Art Volume 6. And that's how we got in the book business. These were the first full-color Collector's Guide and History books done on Lionel trains. My dad had about a 10-year-old black '66 Cadillac Eldorado convertible. It had a huge trunk. He let us take it to York one year, so Tui and I loaded the trunk with books and headed east. We stopped at every hobby shop along the way. I'd go in, show the owner the book, and take an order. He'd ask, how fast can you deliver? Tui would run out to the car, bring the books in, and I would ask, how fast can you pay? How many books we sold during the day determined where we ate and drank that night. Hemingway didn't do it that way, but it worked for us. In 1976, we produced a film, Lionel the Movie. It was shot on 16mm, gorgeous color film, Aeroflex cameras. It was about 15 minutes long. And we reproduced it in 16mm and Super 8 sound. I think the 16mm sold for $150 and the Super 8 for about $75. So we didn't sell very many, and we had to charge that much money because it cost us a lot to reproduce each show. What Lionel the Movie showed me was that trains, with their action, their sounds, their color, the accessories, could be visually exciting. So when video came along in the late '80s, we were ready to start producing videos on toy trains because you could produce on video for a lot less money than you could on film. So in 1987, we published Great Toy Train Layouts of America. It was a hardcover book. It included Frank Sinatra's layout, and the book sold very well. We were reviewed in People magazine, and that was the first time we got exposure outside of the hobby, and orders just poured in. We had to go from 2 lines to 4 lines to accommodate all the orders that were coming in. So I realized then that there was a market for toy trains beyond the train hobby. So the next year, we produced part 1 of Great Toy Train Layouts of America. We featured Ward Kimball. Ward Kimball, by the way, was a great guy to work with. Had a fantastic layout and collection, very knowledgeable and very funny, and we had a great time with him. We did Chuck Brasher in part 2. Chuck had an amazing collection of original standard gauge with many extremely rare items, all in excellent or better condition, and a fabulous layout. And part 2, by the way, was chosen by People magazine as one of the 10 best videos of the year. So once again, with the exposure in People, orders poured in. He was born in 1991. Now, Jeff was a very active kid. He would go full speed from 8 in the morning till 9 at night. The only time he slowed down is when he would watch me edit these train videos. So my wife Cheryl said, why don't you put together a show for Jeff? And maybe we could get a break for a half hour or so. So I put together this 30-minute video that had toy trains, that had farm animals, that had ducks. And Jeff just loved it. He'd watch it once and then he'd sit there and watch it again. And my God, that was an hour. We were in heaven. So Cheryl said, maybe if Jeff likes it so much, other kids would like it. So we decided to take it to a video show in Las Vegas. We polished it up, we re-edited it, we made it a little smoother. And we took it to the VSDA show, Video Software Dealers Association. And we rented a 10 by 10 space, put up a big poster and a monitor showing the tape. And it was the hit of the show. We got orders from Reader's Digest, from Blockbuster, from video stores all over the country. Within 6 months after the release of I Love Toy Trains Part 1, we had sold over 100,000 copies. And mainly because of the reviews in the national media. Parenting magazines wrote about it, USA Today, and it just got terrific exposure. And we had to go from now 4 phone lines to 6 phone lines. Cheryl immediately suggested, well, Tom, why don't you start working on Part 2? Which I did. And Jeff started narrating in Part 5. We ended up doing 12 parts, and then we did a final show and a special show on bloopers called Oh No, which became the most popular segment of the shows. Since 1993, sales of the I Love Toy Train series are closing in on 3 million copies. So people talk about exposing toy trains beyond the hobby. Well, I Love Toy Train series has exposed toy trains literally to millions of people. When I made No Game Today, my company was TM Productions. Later, when I hooked up with Jim Toohey, we kept the same initials because now they stood for Toohey McComas. Then in 1988, when Toohey and I went our separate ways, TM came back full circle to Tom McComas. So we just keep producing video. For the hobby market, we do the kid shows on trains. We produced 11 shows for John Deere. We've done shows for Caterpillar, for Boeing, for the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry. And this summer, we're going to do a new I Love Toy Trains for the fall. We'll do a new video for Caterpillar, 2 new ones for John Deere, and a new Lionel Christmas, which will be released in the 4th quarter. So it's going to be a very busy summer. Some people have asked about our video logo. It originated back in the late 60s. I produced a film about a kid who sneaks into Comiskey Park, the home of the Chicago White Sox, on a day when there was no game. It was a short film about 15 minutes long and was called appropriately No Game Today. The kid fantasizes about being in a crucial spot in the World Series. The kid is up against Sandy Koufax with 2 out in the 9th, bases loaded, and the Sox down by 3. He smacks the 3-2 pitch, and that sound effect of the bat hitting the ball, followed by the crowd roar, became our video logo. The idea is a TM show is a big hit.
A fastball, he swings. There's a long line. Oh, he's tagged this ball. It's going way back in the left. It may go out of here. No, it hits the wall. 1 run is in. 2 runs are in. Here is the tying run coming around 3rd, and he's going to score. The left fielder picks the ball up. It looks like a triple. The kid is racing for 3rd. Here is the relay throw. He's going to try to score. Here comes the peg to the plate. He is...
If you had asked me in 1976 when we were producing Lionel the movie, if in the next 25 years we would produce over 100 videos and be licensed by John Deere and by Caterpillar and by Boeing and by Lionel, I would say, you're crazy. I think we sell videos to Australia, Europe, Japan, South America, Mexico, Canada. We really literally sell videos all over the world. We sell thousands of libraries, and they're excellent because of the good reviews they've received in the library journals, in Publishers Weekly. Librarians recommend them, and parents take them out, and they continue to take them out, and they get to the point where they get embarrassed and they have to buy a video. We have a repeat buy ratio of 90%. That means that 9 out of 10 people who buy one TM DVD will buy at least one more. So libraries have been a great source of developing customers. Train collecting has been a great thing. We've met people all over the country. The York shows in April and October have been great fun, and you just meet people that you'd never meet otherwise, and you share this common bond about toy trains. One of our earliest customers was Frank Sinatra. From the very beginning with our first book, he sent an order in for it, and he ordered every book since. And we got a big kick out of that because both Tui and myself were Sinatra fans, especially Tui. Now, Tui is a very charming guy, but he's not so charming early in the morning, and especially not so charming early in the morning after being out late the night before. We had a deadline, and we had to be working 9 o'clock in order to meet the deadline. And the phone rang, and the voice on the phone said, "I'm calling for Mr. Frank Sinatra. He'd like to talk to either Mr. McComas or Mr. Tui." And I said, "Just a moment, I'll put you on hold, and I'll put Mr. Tui on the phone." So I put the phone on hold, and I said, "Jim, phone." He said, "Who is it?" I said, "It's Frank Sinatra." He said, "Oh, sure it is. Hello, Tui, what do you want?" You never saw anyone go from grumpy to charming in a millisecond than Tui after he heard that unmistakable voice of Frank Sinatra. Later, we went to Frank Sinatra's house. We filmed his layout. We filmed the party room. And it was just a big kick to see our books there with each book signed by both of us to Frank Sinatra. I remember Volume 3 said, "Thanks for singing all those fine songs." One day Tom Snyder called, and he was another good customer over the years, and he called out of the blue and asked if I wanted to be on his show. And so they flew us to Los Angeles. This is when he had the show on CNBC, and we showed clips from all the videos. I was the first guest to be on for the entire hour, and the reason we did that is it wasn't just two talking heads for the whole show. We showed clips from layouts from all over the country, so the concept was expanded beyond just two people talking. And at the end of the show, they flashed our 800 number, and the response was, well, we went, I think, from 6 lines to 10 lines then. The orders just poured in for over a month. The response to the show was one of the greatest they ever received to any show, so CNBC decided to run it 4 or 5 times over the month of December, and each time they ran it, our phones went crazy. Every time they ran it, they would call us and say, "We're going to run the show December 15th, December 18th, we're going to run it Christmas Eve." And then they ran it again, I think, in December 27th. On New Year's Eve, we had people over for dinner. Our house is about 100 yards from the office, and Charles asked me to get something out of the office, so about 11 o'clock I ran out, and I'm in the office, and all of a sudden, all phone lines light up. And I said, "Oh my goodness, they ran the show again." So I busied out the lines, and I ran into the house and said, "Grab your drinks and come on out, you got to take orders." So for the next 3 hours, our guests sat there at the office and took orders as they poured in after the show finished. And we had another party the next New Year's Eve, but nobody wanted to come.
They're still produced by...
I also appeared on the Tom Snyder Show when it was switched to CBS. On that show, I presented Tom with a special Chesapeake and Ohio Hudson that Lionel made up especially for Tom. Over the years, Tom became a very good friend. He called frequently, and we would have dinner with him whenever we were on the coast. We were greatly saddened when we heard about his death. A while after he died, his longtime friend Pam called and said Tom wanted me to have the C&O Hudson, so she sent it to me. It is displayed in our office, and I think of Tom every time I look at it.
Tom was not a casual enthusiast. He read the books, he knew the history, and the variations. He was very knowledgeable. Whenever he visited a town, he always checked out the local hobby shop. When we shot his layout, he put all the trains on the track and ran them himself. He really loved toy trains and had great enthusiasm.
The technology of producing video has changed dramatically over the last 5 years. All our editing, it used to be done linear, now it's all done on computers. We use Max and we use Final Cut Pro, and the possibilities are just unlimited. There's new cameras that sell for $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 that'll do what a $100,000 camera could do 10 years ago. So it's a very dynamic area, and they're improving every 6 months. Something new comes along. I'm sure we'll be having toy train 3D videos in the very near future. We have 2 Final Cut Pro editing suites and 1 Beta SP suite. We produce video here, take orders, fill orders, and ship videos out. We also do custom model making, and we build custom layouts. R.J. Warpole is our main man in those departments. During the busy season, we have about 12 employees. Jody is our bookkeeper. Bonnie takes orders. Dane fills orders. Robin does graphics. And Charles runs the joint.
Hi.
Jeff did a great job, or else he wouldn't have narrated. He narrated some of the segments in Lionel Nation. He narrates videos we do for John Deere, for Caterpillar. He does an excellent job. And at one point he said, maybe I ought to get an agent. And I said, I don't want to hear about any agent. You have received already what they call a very hefty advance. And you're still in the red, young man, so don't talk to me about any agent. But Jeff's been great. We've had a lot of fun. And now he's playing guitar for 7 or 8 years, and now he does not only narration, but he does music for this just released world-class high rail layouts. Jeff does the music, so we're very proud of him. We are very happy with what the manufacturers are doing with more realistic toy trains. The features like the sounds, the whistles, the bells, the moving bell on the Lionel Vision engines, the chasing lights on the hybrid diesel. All these things are very visual, and they lend themselves to video, so we're very happy. But the future for all the train manufacturers is to somehow get that first-time set buyer to expand the concept and to build a permanent layout. Because what happens is they'll get a $250, $300 starter set, they set it up, they run it around that 40 by 60 oval, the track, and in about 20 minutes, everyone's bored out of their heads. You have to take them by the hand and show them how they can take this starter set, and rather than it just be something that they run around the Christmas tree for 2 weeks, it can develop into an activity where the entire family can get involved. They can build a permanent layout. That means this painting, basic carpentry, electricity. It means it's creative. It means scenic. It changes the whole dynamic from a one-time, one-and-done deal at Christmas. It's something the entire family shares for the entire year. Now, how do you do that? I got an idea. Put a DVD in each starter set that explains, first of all, how to get started quickly, because nobody wants to read manuals anymore. Everyone expects a DVD to be included on any item that sells for over $100. So the DVD first gets the people up and running in a hurry, and then it says, now that you've got the trains running, why not build a permanent layout? Now, if you get them to do that, that means they're buying extra track, extra trains, they're buying switches, signals, accessories. You have a customer for the entire year instead of a customer for 2 weeks at Christmas time. The LCCA does a fine job both with the existing membership and with getting kids involved through their junior membership program. They also publish a fine magazine, The Lion Roars, and it's crucial for the future of the hobby to get kids involved. You don't have to be from the Wharton School of Business to realize that if you're depending on guys who grew up in the 50s, you're in trouble. So you got to get kids involved. So thanks, it's been a fun ride, wouldn't change anything, and we're looking forward to a very busy fourth quarter.